at 100, 110%, I would even say. And here we go. We are finally starting in this series. Next one, best of 5, of course. Game number 1 between version 1 and Complexity. Both hot off a win.
Both hot off a win, but both in a little bit of different scenarios here. Complexity have had themselves at least a split to work with their new third in CRR, and he has paid off in dividends, versus a version 1. We're still trying to utilize their new puzzle piece here in Daniel. That being said, they utilized him pretty well in their first series of the day. Almost a perfect sweep, if not for giving up a singular goal to FaZe Clan in their first game of the day. But since then, it's been smooth sailing. Will it be the same here as we get underway with game number 1 versus Complexity, or will maybe these South American legends give them just a little bit more of a run for their money?
Yeah, I will have to see. It's already about 30 seconds into this game number 1. And oh my gosh, Calm, you scared the crap out of me. CRR almost being able to take that one very easily. No points on the board quite yet, though. And no full control really being held. This is something that we always consider in game number 1, right? Feeling each other out, really understanding how the matchup is going to play out for the day, or at least for this series. But that is going to be the shot that makes it in. Razebull finds the first one for Complexity.
Oh, and this is unfortunate because it's really off the play of Daniel here. He's just a little bit overzealous with those touches, and as soon as they see the breakaway the other way, AJG goes headhunting, gets the demo on beast mode to just give 0 options for a clear 404, and we find Complexity with their first goal of the game, and it's a well-earned one in comparison to the last series where the goals were just a little bit chaotic on either end. Maybe version 1 can take advantage of the chaos, though, and re-ensue it here as they look to get their first offense of the game. Instead, it's a passing play, though. Almost works out of CRR looking for Razebull, but instead it's the follow-up shot out of Razebull that really turns it into a threat.
You know, I don't mind those chaotic games, right? I don't mind those chaotic goals, that's for sure. But we do like to see calm, calculated plays. And this might be one right here. A nice pass, CRR over to AJG to bring that up to 2-0.
Oh boy, AJG. I mean, he gets the goal here, but it's CRR with a heavy lifting. A perfect flick to the center, catching all of the defense by surprise as AJG seems to tap that one into net. Unfortunately, with 3:35 to go in a version 1, who we said might be able to clap back against the Complexity momentum, I'm realizing I was severely wrong. It is absolutely Complexity who are coming out the gates, not just firing, but seemingly putting a sniper shot after sniper shot on target every single time. Maybe they get something here, though. Version 1, looking to get some offense together. Out at midfield, it is Beast Mode, who will win the 50-50 and look for a follow-up touch. Not going to be enough. Complexity, again, seemingly just have a wrap on this game, and we're not even halfway through it.
No, just barely 2 minutes in 5 seconds we will be at least. CRR looking to transition this one over once again. Daniel stands there, though, and tries to be the breakaway for the team here. Complexity once again on the offensive. V1 really can't get the control they need to transition this one over into a proper play. It ends up being a backwards pass. It goes over to AJG off the corner, and it's another great chance here as the ball slowly rolls in front of the net. But Daniel's able to save that one, and it's a nice pop over the head of AJG to send this back over to Complexity's defensive side. And
they've been here for a little while, but so far nothing has been all too threatening. Multiple touches off the backboard denied against version 1. The one time that they do not guard it, though, in beast mode, almost slots in an absolute whirly. It's not going to be enough, but it will turn into more offensive pressure. Calm turned away from the ball, though, and CRR tries to get a pass out past midfield. Only finds beast mode, though, who goes headhunting after his initial touch. Get the pass out center. Calm's going to be there. Can't put the shot on, but beast mode can. Enough touches, and eventually it'll work out. Version 1, we're just trying to break down the dam at this point.
Love that beast mode. He just does a 360. He's like, all right, redirect that back to me, and I will take one more shot. Give me another one, and I'll be able to lock it in. That at least decreases the lead that Complexity has with just over 2 minutes in. There's plenty of time here for V1 to tie this up or even take control. Complexity needs to slow this one down as V1 goes in for another, and there it is, just like that. 10 seconds worth of time. V1 takes 2 and ties things up.
Okay, I'm confused. What happens? Why do we keep getting these 2-0s where all of a sudden it's immediately 2-2 within like 30 seconds? Nobody can seem to hold on to a multi-goal lead except for a couple of seconds. The only one who has been FURIA. And outside of that, it's been pretty back and forth here. Could be even more. Beast mode off the ceiling. Pass from Daniel. Denied out at midfield, though. And AJG will even turn it into a second touch to fire a shot of his own. Chaos abundant on either side. Shots continue to ring. And just as soon as we get a tie, it's back in Complexity's favor.
And that's because Complexity, CRR needed a goal. The first one went to RazeBull, the second one went to AJG. CRR is like, all right, put me up on the board as well. I deserve some numbers. And there's still plenty of time on the clock. I just spoke a moment ago, and the lead was 1-0, and it was less than a minute previously. So now we're seeing that was almost a good chance. It's instantly tie it back up. We'll see if this 1-goal lead can be maintained here by Complexity. Version 1, though, we've seen works so well on the back foot. If they are behind, it's like something becomes activated within V1 that wasn't there before. We'll have to see if they can turn that on right now, because they don't have a lot of time left in this game. Oh my gosh, what an angle. What? I gotta see that one again. I gotta see that again.
Yeah, Beast Mode getting chased in net. He almost is able to survive it, but it's the read on the in and out save that's gonna be enough. Just barely bumped off. CRR needs to slot it to the right place, and he does exactly that. Precision to the bottom left. Complexity back to a 2-goal lead. Please do not let this dissipate yet again. Every time we get a 2-goal lead, it's an immediate response out of the other team. Oh my gosh, and it could be yet again. Calm, looking for a 50-50. Can't get past CRR. The version 1, seemingly with a bit of a settle down here, because with 2 minutes to go, they need to do a lot of heavy lifting if they want to send us to at least an OT.
Yeah, a lot of heavy lifting that is absolutely possible in 1 minute. We've seen V1 even earlier today be able to succeed in tying things up or regaining a bit of control here. That's a good start. Daniel not going to be able to find that touch. It's a nice challenge coming out of Complexity here. They're going to keep it on the offensive, though. Beast Mode had a good position there, but AJG dropping that one down to make sure that there was no shot potential. Nice little no way, the flip there coming out of Comm actually worked. It was a beautiful bounce.
As the flip reset works out, it's not necessarily the most overwhelming power, but when Beast Mode realizes he's locking into that, he can at least try to get a little bit of distraction on RazeBull. RazeBull trying to make the save while also dodging Beast Mode. Can't really do either one of the two, and as a result, version 1 back into this game yet again. Every time that this team looks like they're down and out, they've got the never say die attitude to get right back into it. Unfortunately for them, though, they're fighting multiple different things. Not only are they fighting Father Time, they're fighting RazeBull, who's ripping on lasers from the angles.
Oh my gosh. Okay, RazeBull has been just, I mean, so imperative on all of these plays. Not just making the shots, but the disruption that RazeBull has provided to allow the shots to come through from the rest of the team have been absolutely insane. And this is just game number 1. We've already got 8 points put on the board here in game number 1, Bass. This is such a high-scoring game. It's such a high-intensity game. And are we going to get more than that before things end? We've got 20 seconds to find out.
I wouldn't be surprised if I'm being honest here. It just kind of feels like, although this one's kind of set in stone with Complexity most likely taking the win in game number 1, we might just see a goal for a road. Could it be in favor of Complexity? No, it looks like it's version 1 going the other way. But like I said, results say the same. Complexity going to win game number 1 here as, oh my god, I was right. We do get another goal here. It is version 1. The cap is off at 9 total goals. But again, Complexity still walk away with the win here in game number 1.
Yep. 0-second goal. Always feels good to at least lock one final one in. That makes the differential only 1. We have not actually seen a game end with a differential higher than that quite yet today, but I am okay with that. That means all the games have been incredibly close. Let's see who topped the charts on that one. Very close in terms of the points here between RazeBull and CRR. CRR, though, with those 5 shots and then able to get 2 goals in that single assist. So look at how close those numbers are as well between RazeBull and CRR. That's some good consistency right there.
It feels like this is going to be a team that really does play together. We saw a lot of that at the last major where it really was Complexity utilizing every player on the pitch, especially CRR, who seemingly had a hot hand throughout all of his performance at San Diego. But in comparison to a version 1 where we kind of saw a similar dynamic, people were thinking that when Daniel joined this team, it was going to be sort of this two-headed offense here, where we're going to see Daniel and Beast Mode just consistently run the offense and put the pressure on. Instead, it is Calm, that guy at the very top there, who has kind of slotted himself into a second role, while Daniel and Beast Mode more rotate out first and third. One of the two of them playing a bit more defense, while Calm controls that midfield, gets passes out, and tries to utilize that offensive pressure that either player between Daniel and Beast Mode can provide. It hasn't worked out yet, but it was close enough to where I think that it could be a viable strategy. The big issue is, though, they still need to keep their defense up. As much as that rotation between Daniel and Beast Mode trying to be that defensive player while Calm more plays that preventative midfield, they need to be prepared for the transitions the other way. Too many times we saw Complexity catching them off guard, and if Complexity does the same thing here in the second game, I think the results will stay the same. It'll be another win here for Complexity. Let's see if maybe version 1 can try and find a win of their own as we get underway here in game number 2.
I told you, production was trying to help you out, man. I told you they were trying to help you out there with that complexity, but no, you refused it. You wouldn't allow it. So you know that's all right. That means if we're going down, we're all going down together as version 1 predictors here. But it's still just game 2 now. Game 1 having gone over to complexity. No big overtimes. That's the first series. This is the first series that we've seen today that does not have a game 1 overtime.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's true. It's about as close as we can get still with a 4-5. I mean, honestly, sometimes I'd rather take that than the overtime because I don't know how much more my heart can take. My doctor would be pretty angry if we just consistently stayed at overtimes. We might have another consistency here, though, in the breakaway plays. Again, I warned them about how this could be a problem for version 1. They're barely able to get back to that one, but you can see that bobbing and weaving is the defense as a 2v1 goes the other way, and complexity barely unable to find a goal. Version 1 have got to be careful with this. They're giving a lot of space for all of complexity to break away with and turn into these counterattacks the other way. And although they've survived them so far here through a minute of play, you give enough chances, eventually there will be one that works out in favor of complexity. So version 1, you gotta go back to that midfield presence you had against FaZe. If you can shut this team down before they turn it into an offense, you can absolutely win this series. But if you keep giving these chances the other way, absolutely complexity are gonna take full advantage every time.
Oh yeah, and that's already several shots coming out of Razebull, who once again has just been on, transition that into yet another save here for this man who is playing insanely well today so far. Still no early goals on this one, so that's a little bit of a saving grace for V1 to come out of the gate swinging and saying, all right, we can at least make some shots on goal without putting things pinned against us. Still, really lack of control, lack of momentum for sure in the hands of V1 right now, and complexity are really trying to take advantage of that. They haven't quite been able to break through this front line, though, which has really saved version 1 from falling behind here, at least in the first couple of minutes of this game. Another demo, look at that.
Feels very similar to what we were starting to see out of FURIA and Gen.G, where it started to get to a little bit more of a back and forth, but it was more FURIA that just seemingly had a bit more bite in their offenses. The power that they came out with those final touches were just a little bit more than a Gen.G who were going for very well choreographed plays every time, and all of a sudden FURIA were starting to recognize those plays and cut them out before they turned into anything. Version 1, similar idea. They're trying to get these passing plays together. They're trying to get that midfield presence, but every time that a bounce goes out to midfield, someone from complexity is there to meet them and prevent that from turning into offensive pressure. Good example, Beast Mode does get the touch out of midfield, but Razebull well prepared for that, and even though Calm comes diving in for the next touch, can't really turn it into a multitude of strings of plays. So right now complexity seemingly have a wrap on all of version 1, but what I was about to say is that if they do make a mistake, version 1's aggression will be there to punish, so they need to play carefully. They're on a knife's edge as it stands right now, and if they tilt too far either way, it will be version 1 the first strike.
Complexity once again moving in for some hot plays. There's a nice turnaround. Here we go. Complexity looking for the drop down. CRR, it was so close, but it's okay because who's there? Razebull's there to save the day, locking in the first goal of this game, giving Complexity that 1-0 lead.
I hate to say it, but version 1, that went from bad to worse as it just continued to trickle down. It's a double commit, and then a whiff, and then another whiff. It's not always the first mistake that ends up doing it in the team. It's the compounding errors afterwards that can turn into absolute disaster. And unfortunately for version 1, that's exactly what we saw. Double commits are not going to be uncommon for this team. They're still trying to figure out their rotations as a whole, but that singular double commit sent them into an absolute state of panic, and afterwards complexity, all they got to do is put a solid shot on target, and eventually they do. 90 seconds to go. Complexity, if they win this game, would go up 2-0 on the series, forcing version 1 into a reverse sweep if they want to survive here in the upper bracket. Uh-oh, and I think they just might. Another shot on. Daniel makes the save, but now can they turn it the other way and tie up this game?
Little play off the wall there. Razebull able to regain. Beast Mode, though, finds a solid touch, and Daniel is there to recover it, but it's too quick for Complexity, immediately responding to those plays and the positioning here and the adjustments by version 1. That means they're going to regain some control here. It's a big clear coming out of V1. It does go backwards, but that means that V1's not going to be able to really find the touches they want. Daniel trying to keep this one in the corner. He's going to beat out over CRR, pass this one down over to Calm, and that's going to be a high shot, but it hits the top crossbar 2 times in a row, and V1 just cannot find this goal.
That doesn't get better than that. That's served up on a silver platter. They say, here are your appetizers, sir, and you still can't put it on target. Calm given the golden opportunity, and same with Beast Mode there as he goes for a redirect and still can't find it. Version 1 through the last minute of play have had overwhelming offensive pressure, but another shot off the bar. How many will it take, or will Mother Nature and the woodwork be the enemy of version 1? That one also off target. Everything hits the woodwork, and this ball will not hit the ground. Barely staying up. Version 1 looking for something to stay in this game to send us to an overtime, and it might happen. This is still up in the air. CRR finally lets it drop in Complexity. Walk away the winners, but do so in narrow fashion. Version 1, that has gotta hurt.
Okay, game number 1 was 4-5. 4-5, and when we're talking shots, you know, relatively similar. Okay, we had a lot more shots in that other game, but it's huge difference. In this game now, everything was slowed way down. Version 1 certainly, it felt like they even lost a little bit more control considering how many goals they were able to make and how many shots on goal they were able to have in that first game. Beast Mode having 0 shots though, that's really rough, right? And you have 0 saves as well coming out of that player. So this is a player too that looked really good earlier today against FaZe Clan that I was keeping eyes on, that I was expecting to really pop off in this series. And I was talking about the momentum, right? Who can carry over that momentum easier, especially based on the fact that, you know, V1 had a series break, right? Whereas Complexity just came off of their win. Sometimes that does help teams of just continuing that momentum without taking a break. Sometimes it dulls teams. As of right now, it looks like Complexity is taking this one very well because they're 1 game away from yet another sweep here.
Version 1 gets a reverse sweep here. I will be surprised, but not necessarily, I don't know. Unexpected would not be the right word to describe this one, if that makes sense. Version 1 seem like they have the capabilities. When they are doing well, they click like nothing else. The issue for them, though, through 2 games, they seemingly haven't. This is the most we've seen those double commits and awkward positional plays out of version 1, as multiple times we've seen double commits where just shots go off target. It's this imperfection right now that has costed them severely through the first couple of games, and it might cost them again. A diving attempt at a save there out of version 1 is not going to be enough, and now they scramble into defense. This one floating, AJG cannot get past Daniel. But again, this is what I'm talking about. Version 1 looking disjointed, and Complexity seemingly have an answer for every single mistake that they are making.
They do. Version 1, they gave themselves a little bit of an opportunity there, a little bit of wiggle room at least, but they're not able to really nail that one in. And instantly, how quickly that transition from V1 making a shot over to the blue side of the field here, and Complexity being able to get the position they needed with just these 2 members.
It's just a failed challenge there. Daniel goes diving into the corner. Unfortunately, he probably should have rotated into back post net or even front post net to just at least put a threat on. Instead, easy shot, easy opening, and Complexity find yet another goal. This was the #1 concern people had about version 1, was how was this team going to rotate around each other? The 2 hyper-mechanical, hyper-offensive heavy players in Daniel and Beast Mode. Would Com pick up the pieces, or would they try and redo the rotations altogether? They seemingly have redone the rotations, with Com still being a very prominent factor within the offense. That means somebody needs to step up on defense, because so far it has been these defensive lapses that have given Complexity an opening, and there was another one. Version 1 with a chance, and now instead the other way. Complexity go for a 2v1. It does not come to fruition, but as this shot ricochets off target twice in a row, make it 3 times. Version 1 still can't hit the back of the net.
Oh, that's so rough. That was like 2 openings, 2 clean openings. And V1 unfortunately just isn't taking the extra moment, that patience, to really understand where their shot is going or how much time they have. Complexity, it feels like, has this understanding of, all right, we've got half a second to respond or react to this one. Can we continue the play? Should we break past? You know, how should our rotations be maintained here? Version 1 is like flying by the seat of their pants, basically. And luckily, they are making it work. After it's almost 2 minutes into this, they're only down by 1 point here. Now, it is a potentially detrimental point, especially if the second one gets locked in, but it's once again the top of the crossbar that is really coming in clutch for both of these teams now at this point. Complexity looking good. This is their final opportunity.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Complexity closed this one out. This game feels not as much as Complexity outscoring their opponents, but just version 1 unable to hit the targets that they need to right now. Uh-oh, and this is another breakaway. CRR just needs to put this on target, and he almost does. It's still a floater out at mid. Had Daniel not gotten there, surely would have been another goal for Complexity, but surely this is one for V1, but no, the final shot! Lackluster again! How many times are version 1 going to be given a golden ticket into the factory and just tear it to shreds?
Oh my gosh, it is so rough to see V1. I mean, it's so many good attempts, it's so many good opportunities. And honestly, I loved the angle on that, because as you see it, you're like, oh cool, that's an open net for V1. And then they get there, and no, actually, it's not an open net, because at the end of the day, RazeBull is literally everywhere at the same time somehow. So this might be a chance, though. RazeBull, of course, is in that defensive position. He's got to go a little bit high. There's 3 members of the defensive zone. RazeBull almost disrupting that as he gets in front of the shot there. It's not going to go through, though. And now it's less than 2 minutes on the clock for V1 to try to just tie this one up. Here's another great chance, but it's AJG that sends that away.
I can't wait to see the stats at the end of this game to see how many shots total version 1 have had. It's got to be double digits at this point, and despite the fact that they have shot double digits, they are still down by 1 from an early goal that Complexity has found. It's very similar to some of the other games that we've had throughout the day, but unfortunately for version 1, this familiarity is not something they're happy about, because they've seen this already. They've seen Complexity's ability to close out a series, and they're coming close to it as well. 80 seconds to go, a miss off the backboard. Beast Mode needs to make the save. Instead, it is Daniel who comes to the heroics, but they need more than defense. They need a goal. Now make it 2. AJG with potentially the dagger as Complexity look to sweep version 1 out of the upper brackets.
And it looked real good right there, but V1 just overcommitting. We saw 2 members there leave that box to go try to hit the ball in the corner. One of them got it, but it didn't matter because there was a response there from Complexity. And now with 67 seconds left on the clock, things are looking pretty dire for V1. Of course, you have to consider this isn't the end-all be-all for them. There is a lower bracket, and they can continue their run down there since we are still looking at the upper side of things. But Complexity, coming off of that previous win, I mean, very, very on point, and really has taken control of this game. V1 does not look like the V1 at all that we saw in Series number 1.
And it's wild that we're saying that against Complexity versus a FaZe that beat Complexity at the major. What a save out of AJG. Almost a non-factor at this point, though, just considering how many times we've seen saves like that. But again, FaZe beating Complexity at the major. Complexity now beating version 1, the team that swept, almost perfect swept FaZe in their opening round. This has been something special. To say that this has been spectacular play out of Complexity doesn't even begin to describe it. But on the other end, I can't help but be critical of version 1. Yep. So many opportunities, so many offensive pushes, and not a single goal to show for any of them. They're going down out of this series, probably not happy with the way that they played, but the good thing for them, they have a chance to regain in the lower bracket. Meanwhile, Complexity, we'll see you guys in the upper finals. Let's make it a third goal for the road as Complexity shut out and sweep. 3-0 in the game, 3-0 in the series. They're moving on.
A nice little tap here as well by AJG. Gotta get locked into that 0-second goal. Might as well. It's just another nail in the coffin there for V1. But like we said, version 1, they're dropping down. They're not out of it yet. They are still going to be able to play into that lower